There will always be demand for real people stories. It's inherent in us as human beings.
Mm.
From the moment we could communicate, we were sharing each other's stories
Mm.
so that we can learn and grow and pass that on to our next generation. It's in us, it's inherent.
Mm.
The fear obviously is the advent of AI. Yes, it's going to change the face of how we operate. There's no question. However, AI can't tell the story of a real person the way a real person can tell a story. So that's the authenticity is more important now than ever.
Mm.
And so the future just means that we're looking at different platforms to tell our stories.
Mm.
You know, this beautiful podcast, for example, is springing out of that need.
Welcome to the Wisdom We Share podcast, where ancient truths and modern intelligence weave together to inspire, ground, and shape us for a wiser, awakened life. I'm Anjani Amrit.
And I'm Robin Wald. And together we bring you fascinating conversations from the worlds of spirituality, science, and human behavior, so you can connect to your own inner wisdom, joy, and clarity, elevating the way you actually live your life.
Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Yana Groves, an award-winning executive producer with over 3 decades in the industry, working on shows like MasterChef, MKR, My Kitchen Rules, Big Brother, and Below Deck. She's produced everything from controversial talk shows to major global formats. She began her career as a BBC broadcast journalist and is now a speaker, mentor, and founder of Bloom Time Media, supporting the next generation of content creators. Yana has shaped, produced, and collaborated on some of the most iconic formats in global media, bringing stories that move us, connect us, and challenge us to audiences around the world. From her roots in storytelling to her current mission of nurturing the next generation of creative leaders, she brings vision, depth, and mentorship to every stage of the creative process. But what makes this conversation special isn't just her resume. It's the way she's navigated an industry that hasn't always perhaps made space, particularly for a woman, a Black woman, without hardening or disappearing and without selling out who she really is. Yana, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Oh my goodness. That is, people always say when they appear on podcasts or interviews, what an introduction. Oh my God. It is a beautiful way to be introduced. And I'm honored and I'm so happy to be here and meet you both.
Great.
Thank you.
We're excited to have you. Full disclosure, I've known you for ages, and we met through who was now my ex-partner, and we've been zigging and zagging in our lives. We live such kind of seemingly different lives. You're very social and, extroverted, and you're in the media and TV, and I'm pretty much live like a monk. But yet we have such a deep connection, a human connection, and I really appreciate that with you. You're one of the rare friends that I can have that with. And I want to ask you firstly, your journey, spanning from BBC News to founding your own business, Bloomtime Media. How do you think your early experiences shaped the way that you approach your work and even storytelling and creativity today?
Early experiences. Well, I suppose my career began in a really conventional way. It's only now I'm realizing that, we've all got our story about how we fell into our careers and how we, where our lives blossomed. But for me, it was quite conventional. So, I was a drama and media student at uni, and I felt like the media would be the right place for me to be. And also, when I was 13, I did one of those career assessments, and they said, you need to be in communications because you like to talk and you love socializing. So here I am. But during those days, I thought, you're young. I was in my early 20s, finishing uni. I wanted to enter the industry on my own merit. And the truth is, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And my mum said, "You've got to call Uncle Al. He works for the BBC." Anyway, I resisted and resisted and eventually sent a little message to Uncle Al, who was one of Mum's best friends from the 60s. And, within a week, 2 weeks, I had a job at the BBC because there just so happened to be an opening. But going back to your question, I was brought in to work on a show called Black Voice. And it was during the 80s it was 90s actually by this stage, during the 90s, when really we had come to this stage of understanding that we should be as one. I certainly had that way of thinking. And so I was a little bit unsure as to whether going on to a show called Black Voice would pigeonhole me. And I had a huge fear about that. I was luckily enough working on all the main shows too. So I was, becoming a broadcast journalist and working as a reporter, but Black Voice is also where I sat. And I made it quite clear to the managing director that I would like this show to be for everyone. Sure, we've got to reflect and embrace the Black community's experience, but also shouldn't we be sharing that with the broader audience? And so, look, eventually, after lots of toing and froing, it became Saturday Nights with Gino Humphrey and Yana Groves, and then later Saturday Nights with Yana Groves, which sounds like I was ego-driven. Not at all. I genuinely wanted, I have this sort of fantasy, fairyland where there's no race and we're all one and we're all equal. So my career began there. It began with that sort of battle, I suppose, or leveling of where I stand. So cut to today, I've probably spent the last 30 years avoiding that incident or avoiding that situation or avoiding having to have that discussion. So, and here we are.
Interesting. It's interesting when this opportunity came to you, and it's I almost hear a little like, I really appreciate what you said. I wanted to make it on my own merits. And, I teach teenagers and I mentor teenagers, and there is a sense of they want to prove themselves. They want to work hard and they want to earn it and deserve it. But that foot in the door, that someone or relative could help you to get you started. And then this particular show that you were offered really launched you to another level of hosting your own show. But that hesitance of like, do I want to get pigeonholed? Is this how I'm seen? And sometimes we see ourselves and our roles and our capabilities differently than other people may pigeonhole and see you and make assumptions about what you're capable of and where you would be a good fit. So tell me how you said that you spent the next 30 years trying to avoid that kind of situation again. So has your race, your gender, your background not been an issue in the other shows that you've worked on since and in what they expected of you?
It has not been, gosh, this is a broad question. We all know that racism, prejudice exists, and it's alive and well. I'm very fortunate to have been brought up in a multicultural background, in a multicultural family of multi-faiths, multicolor. And that has given me a very sort of broad perspective on humanity and how I move around the world. I'm very proud of my race. I'm very proud of my culture. I'm a mishmash and a mix of all sorts. And, that muttness is what makes me unique. And I'm super proud of that. However, like you say, avoiding it for 30 years means all I want to feel when I walk in a room is that I'm seen as Yana. Now, again, that's very idealistic. I'm not the beholder. I'm not seeing myself walk through a room into a room, but that's how I present myself, and that's how I like to be received. So the jobs that I've done, ranging from, as you mentioned, Anjani, talk shows to cooking shows to Big Brother, social experiments to, documentaries, you name it. I want and always strive to be accepted as me on my talent, on my skill, and my personality. And, that's my worth. That's how I see it. Now, recently, I was so blessed to be invited to be head of creative diversity at SBS. SBS being our, broadcaster, a multicultural broadcaster here in Australia, who really, really has spent the last 50 years carving out a space for multiculturalism here, and has been waving the flag of, intersectionality and acceptance for all these years, and just is building and building on that. So it was a real honor to be asked to be head of creative diversity. And that's the first role I've had where my background probably played a role in the role, so to speak.
Mm.
And what I found was that, and I genuinely believe this, I believe that the majority of people they want to have that sort of equity, equality. They certainly want to be seen to be making all the right moves to make it happen. I think where we come into sort of conflict is actually putting things in place to create that greater, harmony, so to speak, and being able to get to the point where someone's walking in a room and you don't see race first. I also have a theory that genuinely, we're human beings and we have inherent prejudice. It comes from an innate space, and I see that, and I acknowledge it, and I'm always learning about this. I feel like I don't have a staunch belief in how to operate in the world, apart from I just have to be me. But what I am learning about is how other people perceive me. And so through my career, I have had a couple of moments, incidents, but I haven't let it bear me down, and I haven't let it dictate how I do my job.
Mm.
And, especially in today's climate, I am more and more aware of who I am, where I'm from, and where I sit in the world. So and I think this also comes from my fascination with storytelling and working with people and telling people stories, because we all have those different perspectives and views,
Yeah, I think it's a really rich place to come from. I think you were onto it from a very early age. Like, this is me, this is who I am, and I don't see any difference. And for me, the same. I grew up in a multicultural family. I got called Packy at school because my skin was slightly darker than everyone else's. So, same for me. I've never look, I don't see race, and it's weird to, even though I'm listening to myself saying this, I never have seen race. I just see people. But there is prejudice. Wherever we are identified with self as color or race, then there's going to be prejudice, and we live in a dualistic life predominantly, unless we're, working on our self-realization. And so, would you say that it is changing? Like, is it easier, do you think, in the industry for representation of multicultural diversity? Or is it something that is more of a ticker box, or more of a, well, we're saying it is, but really nothing's changed? Because I know in law, they say everything's changed, but really it's still a very male-dominated industry. It's very patriarchal. It's You know, it's an institution that has not grown with the times.
If you're looking for a trusted, skillful expert to support your deeper work of self-exploration and evolution in your life, relationships, business, or spiritual growth, we invite you to reach out anytime.
This is the deeper work Robin and I love to do beyond the podcast. Impactful mentorship, coaching, spiritual guidance, astrology in a one-on-one setting. All the links are sitting right there for you in the show notes.
This is the eternal question. It's eternal. And I've been, myself engaged in so many and watching so many podcasts on this perspective. What was fascinating about the role that I took at SBS was being at the coalface of those decisions. And, really through advocacy and working with state government agencies, with broadcasters, with, independent organizations to really find out what is the research, what's the data, what does it. So what we were attempting to do and what SBS continues to attempt to do is to create that a balance or a reflection of the population, right? That is, I believe, easier said than done. And it takes a long time to do so. In the UK, currently, I think I understand that there's 8% representation of, let's say, people of colour on screen, as opposed to, I think, 6% of the population. It's something like this. I need to check my stats, which is incredible. I mean, and how proud am I and, of our birth country, that there is some kind of parity there. It's wonderful. And is that through, measures? Sorry, can you hear that? Is that a problem? No. Yep. Okay. All right. Somebody's literally soaring next door. That's a beautiful space to be, because really, why wouldn't we want to have representation based on population? My concern, and these are discussions that I've had often, my concern is, just like when I started, do I want to be hired because of my skin color? Or do I want to be hired based on merit? Now, how do we get past that? If I'm going, please don't hire me because of my skin color, hire me because of my skill, but equally, I can help to make sure that my background race is represented. There is, both in the UK and in Australia, so much infrastructure to build that parity. There's infrastructure, there's policy, there's paperwork, there's data analytics. So this is where Australia is, which I believe is, and everybody knows, is a little bit further behind than, say, the UK or even the States. Whether my industry is getting there or not, I think slowly but surely in Australia, because at least the conversation's being had. And so what I was able to do was to speak to production companies and say, look, this isn't a question of you having to fill out forms or having to tick these boxes. Just do what's right. It's common sense. Do what's right, to amplify voices of those underrepresented. So that's really, and once you start talking like that, it stops becoming so jarring. Because rather than being, the police who, you're policing them, how many numbers have you got? Did you find that First Nations representative? Do you have somebody who, has disability issues? In order to make fulfilling, beautiful, transferable, timeless stories, you need representation. And you see it. Like, there's a production company called Bus Stop Films, which really looks at a plethora of abilities, and the incredible work that comes out of this relatively small production company, it is amazing, because disability stories are often not told, or certainly not told I suppose, in a raw way, in a real raw way. We're not hearing about experience. What I love seeing is when people are included in film or television, not as the token, but as a human being.
Yeah.
And
So as the owner and the head of your own, you have your own production company now, or is it something? Okay. So how do you go about choosing what films you work on? Like, what are the stories you want to tell that are important to you?
Well, I work in unscripted. So unscripted is
Like
my
reality
way.
TV? Is that the same as
Well,
reality TV? Sort of.
you have hit the nail on the head. I train and mentor people just like you, I teach. And so the first thing I do when I walk into my reality TV and entertainment class is I cross out the word reality and I write unscripted,
Okay,
because it's
great.
less polarizing. I think, even me, I cringe a little bit when I hear the term reality, but there are so many different ways to explain it. So it's kind of the same thing. Yes, you're absolutely right. So in unscripted, for me, a story is a story.
Exactly.
A person is a person.
Exactly.
So for me, it would feel really strange to, okay, let me twist this a little bit. On the one hand, with Boomtime Media, do development. So I work with people, come to me with their fabulous ideas, and I do my best to create something that will work for broadcast. So people might come to me and go, I want to make a show about bananas. I'll go, great. Let's make it entertaining. Let's make it, comedic, and let's make it sellable. Right. So when I'm creating my own shows, I don't think of, oh gosh, I have to have a show representing the Chinese community, or I have to have a show representing the Spanish community. I don't think in those terms. A good story is a good story. However, when I'm cast, and this is beautiful, casting now, especially in Australia, has now adopted the understanding that we need diversity. And there's a conscious effort to ensure that a broad spectrum of voices are heard. They're all casting in itself, the definition of casting is representing, you're representing your audience, really. So, I don't know if you've heard of a show called Love Island.
Yes.
My daughter watched Love Island and Below Deck. I've never watched either of those shows. I really am a huge fan of Love is Blind. That's one of my favorite. I love Love is Blind. Oh my gosh, every iteration of it. I'm obsessed. Although I have to say the Japanese version was my absolute favorite ever.
I haven't
Because
seen the
culturally
Japanese.
it was so different than the American version or the UK version. And it was really delightful to watch because anyway, sorry, that's an aside. But okay, so
I
Love
love it.
Island.
You know what I like about my job? It's moments like that where people go, oh my God, I love it. People get excited.
And you know what? There's also connection around it. So when I watch reality TV and my daughter watches and my two nieces watch and we got my mother to watch and my sister to watch, we all are in a family group chat. So we'll watch episodes and be like, don't no spoilers yet, but tell me when you get to this part and what do you think about so and so, and it's something very fun that we could share, actually. So there's that part that I love about it as well.
It is absolutely about connection. And you are hitting the nail on the head. So if you're sitting there with your daughter and you're watching, I don't know, the Japanese version, which I can't wait to see myself, but even the American and the British version, you will see a combination of backgrounds, nationalities, also archetypes, right? Casting is built on archetypes. The shy one, the brash one, the rich one, the poor one, the funny one, the serious one. We build all of our shows on archetypes because we want to reflect our audience, and we want you to connect with one or two or three of those characters. So that's key in context, right? So it just depends on the type of the show. It depends on what it is. So I love that it becomes a more unconscious decision in casting rooms because it becomes the norm. And I've been lucky enough to see that happen, even in advertising. And I have moments quite often just walking in the mall where I see an advert for a lip gloss and it's a black woman, a black young woman. And it blows my mind because I've not seen that in growing up. And I to this, like, it's a new thing for me, and I don't hear people talking about it because maybe people aren't noticing, but I certainly do. That I feel I'm being represented, in media, in advertising, you know. So we're certainly getting somewhere.
Definitely. I love that. We interviewed Faith as well, Faith at Google, and
Oh, yes.
she was saying you can't be it unless you see it. And so I think this is a big part of what storytelling does, what media can do, what TV can do, is show and reveal what other people, the diverse range of lives that are available and going on. And in that way, bringing that representation of the truth of humanity, all of it, not just the glitzy and the glamour, but everyone and everything. So I want to take a bit of a left turn here and ask you about how you help modern creators, contemporary creators who are looking to break into this industry, which I understand has a lot of rejection, changeable trends, there's intense competition. How can they stay deeply connected to why they want to tell the story in the first place, without selling out, and maintain their sense of integrity, as you have been able to do your whole life, I want to say, instinctively?
I'm really glad you mentioned this, and it does actually tie in with what we were discussing. We want to create, or I'm passionate about creating opportunity. And really, in my role as head of creative diversity, we were facilitating internships and attachments for people who might be underrepresented. So within Bloomtime Media, and what I did, I started this 8 years ago, and I'm super passionate about, as you say, about giving people an opportunity and opening doors to a career in TV. I am the spokesperson for the adventure that is a life in television. It's not easy, but I want everybody to have the opportunity of experiencing what I've experienced and what I've seen and tasted and smelt and felt all the way through my career. I'm really, I know so many people who've left this industry because it's not easy. It's bloody tough. And we, especially now, we're probably at the worst it's been in my time, at least anyway. People are losing their jobs left, right, and center. The majority of freelancers are struggling financially. I know that about last year, I think there was something like 72% of freelancers in the TV industry in the UK were out of work. Similar thing here. So I want to ensure that if you are going to choose to enter this industry, come armed with the tools. Be ready, because, and I've, excuse my metaphor, but I love a metaphor. I've come up with, or I wrote a chapter in a book called How to Run Away with the Circus. And what it does is roadmap how to survive this wild, wild industry and what to pack when you enter the entertainment world. So, I talk about being aware of, the wild animals, because there are lions out there and they will bite you. So pack a bulky bite suit, you know, bring your, I don't know, your safety net, because you'll be walking a tightrope of, feast and famine. You'll be, working to deadlines. You'll be bleeding from your eyes. And if you're lucky, you'll make it to the other end. If not, you might fall off, but be ready to have something catches you so that you're safe. So I talk about these sorts of situations because I would love someone to have talked to me about the dangers and the pitfalls and what to expect, rather than me waking up at 54 going, oh my Jesus, I better get my pension sorted.
So that sounds like very practical wisdom, right? And that doesn't take away the encouragement to dream and to see yourself,
completely.
having, a successful career in something you're passionate about. I remember I love to listen to, commencement addresses, like when
Yes.
people give speeches at colleges for people graduating from university. And there was a speech that Jim Carrey gave, and he was talking about his father, how his father worked his whole life in a safe job that was secure to provide for his family. And he never pursued his passion because it was important to do the smart, responsible, dependable thing. And then in his 50s, he was let go. And so Jim Carrey's takeaway from this was, you can fail at something you don't love. Why not pursue something you love? Because so you might fail at that too. So just go for it. But what you're doing in that piece of writing and what you're doing in your mentorship is giving people like the what to have in your pocket and in your back, like what to pack along with you as you really pursue your passion and your dream. And, if you fail and you have to revision what you're going to do, that's okay. But at least you went for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, it's, I've met so many people, and I love that example, by the way. That's a great example. I've met so many people who say, oh, I've always wanted to be a TV producer. Oh my God, I've always wanted to. Oh, I wish I had. I thought I would. Well, let's not wish anymore. Just do it. And I also hear people say, oh, but it's too competitive. I will say this, even in this climate, when budgets are zero and productions are halted, and there are very few. There are great productions, by the way. There's some great things being made, but not much. The volume is way lower than, say, 10 years ago. The mentorships I've run in the last 8 years, I have a 100% success rate in getting them jobs.
Wow.
So it's not, like I said, it's a combination of what I experienced, which is what you know and who you know. So it's having the tools and the knowledge of what to expect when you walk into a production company. How does it all work? What does it mean? When we say unscripted, what does that mean? Can I make shows that I'm interested in? I'm interested in glass blowing. Yes, you can. There's a show for that. Can I make a show about making swords? Yes, you can. There's a show for that. So, there's something for everybody, but just know this is an industry full of ego. It's full of ego and competition. Yes, there is competition, but you've got to be in it to win it. And when I introduce people to the gatekeepers of the industry, of course, the gatekeepers want those introductions. They're really excited to meet someone who's keen and interested. So, look, this is 100% success rate so far. It doesn't mean that's necessarily going to be the case for everybody, and I make no guarantees. But what I'm saying is it really, really works to give someone the opportunity to see an adventure ahead of them and bloody give someone a chance.
I mean,
and I'm all about that.
You're making dreams come true. And what you do with your Blue Time Media, with helping mentoring people into that industry, you're bringing your wisdom so that they come ready with all of that wisdom. So you're giving them the leg up, the massive leg up. And it's quite amazing that you've had such a success rate in such a difficult industry. And I think anyone wanting to go into the industry, if they're not getting mentorship by you or anyone else, I don't know if anyone else is doing this kind of work, because it's very rare, then they're missing out. And also that other aspect that you do, which is to grow people's dreams and make them reality, bring them into a material reality. And you've worked with me on my concept for the documentary, which was invaluable. And so I think you're doing amazing work. Now, looking ahead, where do you personally see media and storytelling going? Because you said, it's at an all-time low. What is your sense of what's going on in the industry and in the world? I talk about we're shifting into an Aquarian age, which is all about being able to do it ourselves. And, so what do you see for the future?
If there's some topic you're curious about, or an issue that maybe you're struggling with and seeking some insight and guidance around, we would love to hear from you. You can reach out to us either through our social links or on our web pages and pop us your questions so we can discuss them and offer some wisdom on an upcoming episode of the podcast.
Well, I have, as you know, gone through the riding of this wave. We're all on it. Hold on to your britches, because here we go. As we know, it's going to be an interesting year. When COVID hit, it was another one of those moments for all of us. We didn't know what was going on. I did a little Facebook Live called How to Come Out on Top, What the Beep to Do Next, and Other Unanswerable Questions.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Because we were all like, what?
Lots of fun.
And I feel we're coming into a similar time now.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, like last year, I was at the Screen Producers Australia conference where I moderated a panel. And, most discussions were about what's next. Holy moly, what are we going to do? Trump tariffs, etc., etc. Things really are impacting our industry. Podcasts and, lives and people I'm talking to, it's all a whirlwind of panic. I believe we just have to pivot. We just have, and it's that word again, we have to pivot. There will always be demand for real people stories. It's inherent in us as human beings. From the moment we could communicate, we were sharing each other's stories so that we can learn and grow and pass that on to our next generation. It's in us, it's inherent. The fear, obviously, is the advent of AI. Yes, it's going to change the face of how we operate. There's no question. However, AI can't tell the story of a real person the way a real person can tell a story. So that's the authenticity is more important now than ever. And so the future just means that we're looking at different platforms to tell our stories. This beautiful podcast, for example, is springing out of that need. So, thank God there are people willing and happy to share this authenticity because it's needed so desperately. So there's that. It's not the old model. Sure, the model's changing. It's not about having 4 channels that you watch and the TV switches off at 7:30.
I remember that.
Showing our age a little bit. It's not that. It's a different model now. So we're moving more into streaming and YouTube. What about YouTube? It's amazing.
I love YouTube as a platform.
It's amazing.
I love it. You know what I see with
Did you see my husband?
Yeah.
I think he's forgotten that I'm on a podcast.
What
And
I
there he
see
goes.
working with youth is that everybody's creating their own content, right? Like these kids from the time they're 11, 12, 13, they're creating content. Now, I'm not sure they're always really
using the best, the thing about it that's great is that it's creative, right? They have a sense of ownership. I can add the music and figure out who's in it and what we're doing and the dance moves and what platform I'm using and all of that kind of thing. I think that there is something about the Aquarian age where we take ownership back and say, I'm a creative human being. I have a story to tell. This is the platform or the app or the format that works for me, and I can create it. I think that that's beautiful. But I think we're always going to need professionals who are skillful and really have integrity around holding that space for the human experience on a higher level of consciousness, which is where somebody like you comes in, right? There's a different level of integrity and understanding and humanity to that. So thank you for doing that. I want, as we're closing out and reaching the end of the show, I do want to ask you, what are you doing for yourself that is playful and fun? Because it sounds like you really do love what you do and that your work also has an element of fun and joy and creativity. But in your personal life, what other things light you up?
Well, my husband, who you might have just seen appear here.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. We call him the Viking. And boy, is he a Viking. The Viking got me a karaoke machine for Christmas.
What's your go-to song?
Huge speakers and microphones. And I literally can't believe this is happening. And this is a pinch me moment. So I love a microphone. Just stop me. I love to sing. So I trained when I was younger, way, way younger, for many, many years. And you'll understand this when I say this to you, Robin. But in the States, I used to compete in county trials, choir competitions.
Sure.
So I was 8th soprano in the state of Pennsylvania.
It was like, in New York, they call it NISMA, but yes, they have, like, every state has their youth orchestras and chorus, and you have to try out in different levels, and beautiful. Wow.
But since then, 30 years of all the stuff, my voice isn't as angelic as it used to be, but I still have the passion to sing. So I do a bit of singing. In fact, we've got an event coming up called Bleecker Street Nights. Do you know Bleecker Street in New York?
Of course I do. I used to hang out there in my teenage years. I went to school in Manhattan and I would go down to Bleecker Street all the time.
Right.
Yes.
So my New Yorker friend has created this event where we all come together, original musicians play their music, and I do a little bit of emceeing and belting out a tune here and there. So singing for me is everything. Singing and dancing, actually, because I do Zumba as well. I like the physicality of joy,
So fun. If we're ever in the same continent at the same time and place, I would love to party with you because I also love karaoke. There's a local brewery in my town and they host karaoke nights. And I'm always trying to drag my friends and my family there. And nobody really, really wants to go. And every once in a while I'll be like,
I'll be there.
please, for me, come on, let's go. And I love to dance too. So much fun. So much fun.
So we need to hop on a plane. Anjani loves dancing too and singing. I know you have an exquisite voice.
Okay.
You do. The album that you put out was beautiful.
It does.
Yes.
I think for me, singing, it really opens the heart. When we sing, it opens the heart, and it's a beautiful expression of self. Music, singing, dancing, moving the body. It's important, especially for women, because we tend to walk rigidly and not honor our curves and the cycles and seasons of life. And dancing brings that back for us. It brings us back into our feminine. So we could talk forever, Yana. Thank you so much for your insight, your generosity, and your truly deep commitment to elevating stories and storytellers and being that human bridge, not just for entertainment, but for helping creators maintain their dedication to the work. It is a work, it is an art form. And just think about, all the times when we've had world wars, and we still had entertainment. We need it is a basic human need. Creativity, the arts is a basic human need. Imagine life without music or dance or entertainment. We would all be dead.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so thank you for reinforcing that need and joy, and that message of we just need to evolve with the evolvement of humanity and paradigms. It's just an evolution. It's another cycle of evolution. There's nothing to worry about. So where can people connect with you? How can they explore your mentoring, the work that you do?
So, well, please check out my website, bloomtimemedia.com. I'll say that again without tripping over my tongue. bloomtimemedia.com. And also, I'm really happy for people to DM me. If you want to reach out on Facebook, I know I'm old school. Facebook, you can check out my Instagram. But yeah, I mean, you can email me as well, ygroves@bloomtimemedia.com. So just let me know, because we actually are running a platinum producer course at the end of Feb. And I think we're only doing 10 to 15 spots. So, but if anybody's interested, this is a 2-day intensive. It is so cool. People come away being mind blown because I bring in industry experts. These are the leaders in the industry who are the door openers, and I feed the information and, growing the next generation of talent.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, your expertise, and your
Thank you for having me.
Thank
What you're
you.
doing is
So
tremendous.
wonderful.
Thank you. And
you.
this is the wisdom we share.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Wisdom We Share podcast. We hope today's episode sparked some new insight, imagination, and practical tools you can integrate into your daily life.
Continue this journey with us by subscribing, sharing, and dropping us a review. Until next time, stay wise.